Hello viewers, it's time for the round 6 edition of NFL Web TV. I'm Samuel Zito, joined by Liam Mighty Quinn for another edition, and Quinny is a big round in round 5.
Yeah, it was another great round. Obviously the charity round was fantastic, everyone getting well and truly behind that one, and yeah, it was just a great success for the NFL.
It was, of course, the NFL match of the day was between Greensboro and Eltham. It was played for the E.J. Whitten Foundation. It was great to see Greensboro in a different strip, in the predominantly white strip, and supporting awareness and funds for not only prostate cancer but men's health in general. Of course, we had Ted Whitten down there as part of our broadcast as well. Fantastic to get the big names down there.
Yeah, and it was good, as you said, the white strip, it got a bit muddy towards the end of it, obviously, with the conditions on Saturday, but again, with Ted Whitten, that sort of players like that down there was fantastic for the week.
Well, it was pretty tough conditions in round 5. We are forecasting, I think, maybe similar weather for this weekend, so it might be interesting to see if the teams got used to the sloppy conditions and the heavy ball and the muddy conditions, but it's going to make for a pretty interesting week again in round 6. First game on the cards is Bundoora and Montmorency. Montmorency winning their first game of the year on the weekend. They were 43 points up at quarter time. They held on for a 27-point win. It was pretty convincing. Dean Limbach got the chocolates with 7 goals, so he was back in form. His shot to the top of the goal-kicking ladder. Bundoora just won again at North Heidelberg. Far too good. They kicked 17 goals for the game, which I think the league average in Division 1 was about 8 for the weekend, and their forward line's pretty potent. Moorcroft's kicked 6 and Cloak 4, and I think they'll be hard to stop again, and Bundoora to be 6-0 after this weekend for one.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Bundoora did look, especially in the wet, like it looks almost like a normal score, 110, so a big win, and if you have a look at the scores, it was 5 goals 1 and 2 goals 4 at half-time, then finished up 17 goals to 6, so after half-time they had on 12 goals to the 4, so
yeah.
pretty comprehensive after
the Ravens have just probably turned the switch on. They've been able to score pretty high scores frequently throughout the season, so hard to stop. Another team who found some form in round 5 was West Preston. They got over the line against Heidelberg in the 2010 Grand Final rematch. They turned the game open in the second quarter. They were 4 goals down at quarter time, ended up being 29 points up at half time, so quite a turnaround. It was 7-3-0 in the second quarter, and they're a bit inconsistent. They've won 1, lost 1. I think they've won 2 in a row in rounds 2 and 3, and then went down in round 4. A bit of a shock loss to Eltham, but against Whittlesea, I think they'll be too strong, and they should really cement perhaps a top 4 spot after this weekend and be 4 wins and 2 losses.
Yeah, and as you said, whenever you can hold a team like Heidelberg, who have been so dangerous, even if they are in a bit of a down patch of form, without even registering a point in a quarter of football, is a massive achievement. And off the back of that, then they're able to score some goals as well. So, yeah, you think they'd be too strong again this week?
And next game is Eltham is up against North Heidelberg. North Heidelberg still without a win in season 2011. It doesn't get easier. Shane Harvey was injured on the weekend, hurt his shoulder. Still awaiting the results of scans that he had, so hopefully it's not too bad. We've also had Florence, the ruckman, perhaps with the broken jaw. We're not 100% sure on that just yet, but if you look at the coaches' votes on the weekend, and both Florence and Harvey are in the coaches' votes, and 2 of the better players, definitely Harvey, one of the most important players to any club in the competition. Their names they can't afford to lose. Eltham was disappointing last weekend. I think the conditions didn't suit them against Greensboro, a running team, and in the wet it just made their game. They had to change their game style, didn't they? And they're probably a bit handball happy against Greensboro, whereas they had to just get the ball on, and I think they're a pretty good side, and they'll probably feature in the top 5 come season's end. I think they'll get the job done against the Doggies this weekend.
Yeah, as you said, they did almost at times when we were obviously watching it, seem to overpossess it a little bit, and obviously in the dry, the little hand pass out the back can really set you up going into attack, but in the wet conditions when it's hard to hold on to the ball, it worked against them a little bit. But even as you said, the big injury to Blair Harvey, of course, NFL operations manager Jared Carey said that he needs to kick 10 goals a game for Heidelberg to get any wins this season, and if he's out, then it doesn't look like it's going to get any better for North Heidelberg this week.
Yeah, fingers crossed that Shane is okay and it all comes okay, and he's right to play this weekend. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Next up is Heidelberg up against Heidelberg's playing McLeod. Part of me has looked at my notes just there, but they're actually in a bit of strife. Heidelberg for the first time in about 5 or so years. They're 2 and 3 after 5 games. I don't think many of us would have predicted they'd have such a slide this year. I don't think many predicted they'd have such dominance as they have in recent years, but they really are struggling. They're outside the top 5, and McLeod's actually in the top 5 as we speak. They had a really good win against Northcote Park in the weekend, restricted Northcote Park to just the 1 goal, which surprised many. Won by 53 points in pretty tough conditions, which is a fantastic performance. Heidelberg, for the second time this year, their discipline really cost them. It happened in round 2 where they had many numbers down on the bench because they had some yellow cards go on there, and again on the weekend in the second quarter, from all reports that we're hearing, they were pretty ill-disciplined and gifted West Preston some easy goals, and if that continues, you're not going to win games in Division 1 when the competition is so tight this year. But I think just because it is Heidelberg, I can't really see them being 2-4, and as good as McLeod was on the weekend against Northcote Park and restricting them to such a low score, I think I would still go for Heidelberg.
Yeah, it is hard to see Heidelberg dropping to 2-4, as you said, but obviously as we saw over the weekend with a bit of indiscipline creeping in, there's a bit of frustration down there at Heidelberg, and if they lost another one, then that would only increase even further. They were able to bounce back obviously last week with a nice win, but then seemed to undo their good work against West Preston, so they should still win, but I'm not as 100% convinced in Heidelberg as I was early in the year.
Yeah, I guess it is. When you do look at it, you wouldn't really expect after round 5 that McLeod would be sitting on top of Heidelberg. Of course, McLeod, an emerging team. I've been saying it each week, but Ben Lennon still not in the team as well. He did play the first couple of games, and funnily enough, as good as a player he is, if not one of their best players, despite being 16, since he's been out of the team, they've really strung in some good performances. They were disappointed with the way they played against Bundoora in round 4. They really bounced back against Northcote Park, who should be a genuine premiership contender this year. Northcote Park is the final game of round 6 as they take on Greensborough. It's of course a big game for everyone at the NFL. It'll have plenty of feeling about it. It's the Neil Cowboy Carroll tribute match. Of course, Neil being a fantastic servant of both the Greensborough and Northcote Park Football Club. Unfortunately and tragically, Neil passed away at the start of this year, and I know it's still pretty raw amongst many people at the league, and it should be a fantastic game. Both sides are in fantastic form so far. Greensborough's won again on the weekend, as we mentioned, against Alton. They're 5-0. They're first on the ladder, and Northcote Park, despite last week's performance, they've been trotting along pretty well, and then of course last week just the one goal. They're 3-2. They really want to improve on that performance, and in such a big game, of course, Cowboys such a big figure at both clubs. They're really going to want to lift for that one. There'll be a minute silence before the game. There'll also be a luncheon down at Bill Laurie Oval, so if anyone's watching this, get down, contact Northcote Park and see if there's any spots at the luncheon. It starts at 12 o'clock, and get down and support both clubs for a fantastic servant of the game. But Greensborough is just moving along really nicely. Again, Tim Bongetti was fantastic. Conlon Gunn was the Simmons Holmes Player of the Week. He probably had about 100 kicks, I reckon, on Saturday. He was just unstoppable in those conditions. And young Matty Tarr was pretty good as well, and they'll be pretty hard to beat, I think.
Yeah, Matty Tarr was really good in that second half. He really gave Greensborough with when they started to look like they could have let the game slip a little bit. He got them back in control of the game. But as you said, it'll be a massively emotional contest on Saturday, so it should be good for both sides to pay tribute in a pretty fitting way. But off Greensborough's form the last couple of weeks when we've seen them, as good as Northcote Park have been at points this year, it's hard to go against Greensborough at the moment. They've just got so many options across the board.
Well, yeah, as we said, we've alluded to just the depth in their team, and there's Aaron Burns playing fantastic footy. We've mentioned Bongetti, but also Nick Riddle had a stellar game again on Saturday. His brother Josh wasn't there. He's back in 2 weeks' time. So they're just going to get stronger, but it is a big month. Conlon Gunn did say it after the game when we interviewed him that they have Northcote Park, Bundoora and West Preston over the next 3 weeks, and they're sitting 5-0, and I think no one begrudges that. They've been probably the best team, along with Bundoora, the 2 equal best teams in the competition. But I think over the next 3 weeks we get an even better indication of where they're at and how they match against the really strong competitors this year. They've done fantastically so far, and I expect them to do quite well as it is. I think they'll just continue on the merry way. But the next 3 weeks for Greensborough are going to be huge, and we'll really see where they're at. Yeah,
and absolutely fantastic chance for them to really improve their early season premiership credentials. If they can even 2 wins out of that 3 would have them at 7-1 after 8 rounds. Would be a fantastic start, but obviously they'd be gunning to try to get all 3 over the next few weeks.
And just quickly as well, we're just hearing reports this week that Simon Prestigiacomo won't feature for West Preston out there, so for all of you tipsters out there, just keep that in mind. Presti's going to go out and play for the Bush for just 1 weekend this week. I think Shane O'Bree's forcing down his old Collingwood teammate to have a game down there, but so all reports there'll be no Presti, no Goodwin or no Rocker for West Preston this week. Be interesting to see how they cope with that. Presti's been fantastic in 2011.